Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Soulmate podcast. And today we have two very special guests for you. We have Leonardo Hamilton, who plays Steve / Alpha Wolf in the in Soulmate, and you'll have to kind of see the show to know what that second role is. We won't give it too much away. And then we got Sean Amato here, who plays Phil. And Leo and Sean are both very special parts of the cast here in New York City. We can even get a little bit into how we cast and everything like that. But I want to say that they've been a absolute fan favorite here. I think the most consistent message is that everyone loves you guys and the chemistry you have, what you bring to the play. And all I'll say is that they play kind of a little bit of a duo in the play, and really it only stems from one scene, which is a little crazy. It's and everyone refers to it as the construction scene. It's a scene that's on the construction site. They play two construction workers. But what was really special about Soulmate New York that we did not do in Soulmate LA is that we needed some transitions to happen, and actually Milton came up with the idea of doing kind of a blue light, having you guys as construction workers come and do the scene transitions. Now in LA, George, who played Steve, he would do the transitions, but they weren't nearly as big because the stage wasn't as big, and also we were just working with these big blocks. So we need a little more time and a little more. So Milton is a genius, and also he's the one who he's part of the Soulmate team here in New York, and he's been our stage manager and our sound design and our lighting tech. And he just said, they're construction workers, why not have them do construction, right? And so what we were able to do is take this one scene, these guys that have been established in this one scene, and expand the characters throughout the play. And I don't know, what did you see? What did you feel during that evolution, right? Because when you got the script, right? Once you were cast, you see you only have this one scene. Sean actually has two scenes. He appears in another scene too, but only one scene together. I don't know. Did you have a sense of that being kind of limiting? Did you see what was coming, and how did it develop as we expanded on that?
To you, sir.
It was really cool. Getting a chance to work in the scene transitions, being able to work certain improvisation kind of things into the scene. Just reading the script, it was just seeing the scene work. It's okay, you're getting a feel for how these characters work, and then we were able to kind of make it a little bit more bigger, expand, talk about other things in the show that are happening in the background to kind of add more context to the show. So it was awesome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. Cool. Anything that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we have one scene together, so better make it count.
Yeah, right.
But I think a lot of our scene just stems from our relationship off stage. You know what I mean? We started chopping it up, and at our first rehearsal, just started hanging out, and we brought that to the scene. From an acting standpoint, you want to do your homework on all the scenes you're in, make sure you know the lines, make sure you figure out your objectives, whatnot, and having myself only really two scenes, it's pretty easy to find your objectives.
Got it. Yeah.
But it's you don't want to look at it as I only have two scenes and that's right. That. What makes these roles memorable is we treat it as if we are, the same as George playing Caleb. You know what I mean? You approach it the same way. We have that one scene together, but it's a very pivotal scene. There's a lot that goes on.
Right.
With our relationship. To Caleb, with our relationship to each other, you can see a lot. It shows both of our relationship statuses. It shows how we view certain things. There's just a lot that goes on in that one scene that sets the tone for the rest of the show. And now, whenever you see us in the show, whether it's scene change or myself later on, you kind of know what to expect. And you're expecting that energy to be brought again. And if you don't bring that energy again, you're letting the audience down.
Right.
So to think, that scene's done and that's it for us, it's not the way to go. People are going to expect you to carry that throughout the rest of the show.
Absolutely.
But you guys alluded to something which is actually interesting that I didn't even realize, right? So you're talking about your characters, but you're also talking about your personal chemistry. And so, and you bring in the character's objective to the scene and these cut scenes, but what about the personal chemistry then adds to that?
I mean, honestly, just being able to chop it up and get so friendly off stage, I think is really translated on stage. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I just follow Sean's lead. Sean's a great guy.
Yeah.
That's his first mistake.
Yeah, I know. It's good.
Exactly.
And like, you know, he tosses the ball, and we just toss it right back to each other. And we were like doing that in the audition room.
Yeah.
Even just like sitting next to each other, even not knowing each other. And then we got lucky to be cast together, and then it kept getting building and bigger.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's something about the really quick about the audition is that, and this is a story I know we've shared where you guys ended up kind of like next to each other.
Yeah.
It was right when you walked in, or like when you signed in, or
We sat next to each other.
We just sat.
Yeah.
It casually happened.
And you were passing around in the sign-in sheet.
Yeah.
And Leo signed in. And then I get the sheet next, and I'm looking down. I'm signing my name, and I look above mine, and I see Leonardo Alexander Hamilton. And afterwards, I was like, I have to tell you, you have the best stage name I've ever heard in my life.
And then,
Like,
and then from there we just started shooting it.
You have to be down that, you know, you have that name. You got to be, there's a lot of greats in that name right there. You know what I mean?
Like,
No pressure.
I know.
Exactly.
You know,
Like, I
just
feel
shout out
like
to my parents.
In front, it's like the great.
Yeah. Have you thought about adding to it?
No, not yet. Hey, we'll see.
right.
We'll see how it goes.
The immaculate. You know?
Exactly.
If you want to. But God, it was so cool just the serendipity moment of us just you know, being next to each other, and then you know having that little interaction, and then even when we got to the callback, because we just had a little interaction, then you know callbacks happen, you don't know who gets called back.
Yeah.
And then I see him in the room, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, cool, he's back. And then I found out that he got called back for Phil. So I was like, oh, all right. So we just called back for Phil and called back for Steve.
Right, because you guys didn't know. I was kind of doing Phil and Steve. I mean, I wasn't really determining who was who yet. I just kind of knew who I wanted. Because, I mean, you know, no spoiler or anything, but they're kind of the only two males in the play besides the lead male. And so, for me, it's like, you know, let's just see who the potential Phils and Steves are.
Yeah.
So, when I did the callback, I mean, I sent you guys probably both sides, or I said, well, for some of them, actually, I said, I think you're a Phil, so I'll give you. Did I do that with you?
You sent me both. You read for both.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually, it's funny. I was reading. I was like, I feel a little more Steve. I'm feeling Steve.
Really?
I was like, I don't know. There's something about the cocaine line. I just think it's funny. But then, you know, as you read other people, I'm like, okay, the dynamics shift.
Yeah.
You see how, you know, when you're paired up with people, what you really lean towards. You know, so it was a good experience. Callbacks were I've never done a callback like yours before.
What was different? I've never done a
I've
callback.
never done a callback.
Wow.
That's the first
where
time.
sit, you know, for anyone who doesn't know, we stood in a horseshoe. And you called everyone in like I've never been in a horseshoe of people with everyone being called back with, stepping forward and doing everything in front of. And the danger with that, I feel, could be like people are gonna sit there and be like, oh, he's doing this, he's doing that. Oh, that's my competition. Forget it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like it was different here. There was something about the group of people that were called back where we're all standing here, we're all watching each other. I'm like, oh, I like what they did. I like, oh, that's funny. Oh, you know what I mean? And almost like we're all rooting for each other.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
good.
No, that's how it felt too. And even like when Sean went up to go read, like, as he got called back for Phil, and then I was about to step up, then somebody came in and stepped up.
Right.
You know,
like, okay, wait.
You know,
It's like a middle school dance.
It is. It's like, you know, when it's like that, it's like, all right, you know, it's like, all right, we're reading for these certain parts, and then it's like, all right, who's gonna go? Who's gonna step into the center?
Yeah.
And I was very happy, like what Sean said, like the people kept it so, it was so nice in the room. Like we held space for each other, and you know, it was honestly a really great process.
It's actually funny. I got feedback from a lot of people from the callback just saying that was like they had a great time at the callback. They never thought they'd say they had a great time at the callback. It's not something you hear very often.
Well, it's intimidating, you know. You hear about this play from LA, and you're in this room, and everyone's kind of standing next to you, like, who's going first? What's going on? What's gonna happen? And then you're like, what do you guys want to do? You know? Who wants to go first? You know, it was very, you know, it's different, but it was a nice different.
Yes,
Good. I'm glad it was a positive experience. But what I was going to say, going back to the first audition, is that so when Sean and Leo, I think you guys were. So what we did was we also had so many people we had to go through that day, and I mean I think 300 people, and that was culled down from like, you know, casting submissions of over almost 1,000, I think. And I mean my mind was numb already because I'm like. I was just trying to, I'm like, I don't know, you just got to get through it. But I want to find the right people, you know? And it's like, the first time I'm doing a casting out here, I mean, I've only done one other casting, and it was for Soulmate out in LA. And honestly, for that one, I think I only was looking for 2 people. And this time I was looking for like 6, you know, so, or 5. In any case, it it was scary and intimidating for me, and I was already kind of like burned out on just having so many people to sort through. And so when you guys came up, I think you were even maybe in one of the first groups. You were like the first two in a line. So we line up a bunch of people, like 10 people, 9 people, have everyone step up, do a monologue, step back. And the monologue was quick too. What did I say? Like
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Yeah,
which is funny.
Another difference I've never experienced.
Yeah.
You were a lot of first here.
Yeah, you were, yeah.
Actually, you know what's funny though? I think I want to stick to that because
Really?
when I did the auditions for Caleb and Chloe just recently to get George and Avery, I went ahead and said like a minute. And that was way too long. Within 20 seconds, I knew, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing is, and I still had to go through a lot of people, and I'm like, I wish I stuck to the 20-second thing. Yeah.
Interesting.
But,
I've been so used to like 30 seconds. Sometimes like.
Talk about monologues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yo, you crazy. But yeah, so I'm used to like like 30-second like monologues. You know. Or like for SETC, if people don't know, it's like Southeastern Theater Conference where you do like a 60-second like package. So I was more used to those things, but then when I saw the call 20 seconds, it's like, all right, how do I shave down this monologue to give you, you know, beats, intentions, everything I can give you in 20 seconds. Right? Like it really was. I was in between 2 different monologues trying to figure out which one would fit better because you know. You only have a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky that the monologue I picked gave me a lot to work with, and it worked out.
Yeah. Was it, so was it generally 30 then?
Usually like a minute, to be honest. Like 30 seconds to a minute. Yeah. Like the minute's suggestive. You don't really, like you can do a minute 15, you can do 45. Yeah. You don't want to do 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I know people who show up, they've like, I tried to do a scene. I'm like, don't do a scene. Yeah. Do a minute. You know, because it's exactly what you said. You can really know who you're interested in within the first 20, 30 seconds. Yeah. Sometimes people change your mind. Sometimes you're watching a monologue and you're like, all right, it's whatever. And then something clicks in there and you're like, oh. Yeah. You're like, this is very different than what I thought was how this was going to go. But I think that, first of all, with the amount of people you had, you're not going to, if you have them all do 1-minute monologues, you're going to be there till
all day.
for a whole week. And then also, by the end of the day, you're like, after the last 100 people, you're going to be like, I didn't even know what you said. I don't remember what you said. But,
I don't even know who I am. You know?
I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I got a 9:20 slot. Yeah. It's a 20-second monologue. How long could it take? Yeah. And then I showed up lying out the door, down the street. I'm waiting. I'm like, didn't see that one coming.
No, it's real. And even like a friend of mine who also got like the call, like the audition like notice, he showed up, saw the line, and was like, all right. And it's like, you know, and that, like, and you know, shout out to him. He's working.
Sure.
But it's like, you know, those lines can be intimidating. And like, and even Sean and I were talking when we got casted. It's like when you see that line, you either decide, hey, I think I'm good enough to book it, or not, you know, and am I gonna try or not? And like, I'm glad I stayed because I think I had a 9:15 slot, and it just like even the line was long there, you know. But it was
You say to people like, how long you been here? They're like an hour. I'm like, I was already late for work too. Fun fact.
Shit, really?
I said to my boss, because I was supposed to work, I was doing a set changeover at a theater on Long Island. And I was like, give me till 12. And I'll be there. And then I text him like, I ain't getting there at 12. I was like, I don't know when I'm gonna get there, but I got there. He didn't fire me.
Yeah. But anyway, so when they finally came up in the line, they were like the first 2 in the line, and just seeing, I don't know, when I saw you guys up there, I'm like, and I just saw like a Phil and Steve, you know. I'm like, okay, this could work. And then when you stepped up, you know, I think it was you first. Or no, it was you first, actually.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I
think it was so real with you. That was April. That was
I think it was Sean, and then it was Leo.
I think it's Sean and me.
Yeah.
Was I talking about lying? Because that was my monologue. Everybody lies all the time.
Yeah.
If that rings any
bells. Well, do you know what I was gonna say? That was gonna be my next point. But the first thing is, when they stepped up, I mean, I just kind of wrote on my notepad. I'm like, I think these are the guys. And it's weird because, of course, it wasn't that linear, meaning, you know, I didn't decide right there. I mean, we had callbacks 2 days later. And and I wanted to make sure to give everyone consideration, but it was one of those things where it was like the first impulse. And I felt like it had to do with that chemistry that I even saw without you guys interacting, you know what I mean? Which is really, really interesting too. And like the different characters you were bringing. You know? Yeah.
Definitely. And And I like that because the show and the text is so like realistic in a way. Like we were able to like make these characters very different and feel very real in the context of the show.
Yeah.
So that was fun to even be in the rehearsal room and like work with Sean on that. And like, you know, I don't get the chance to act with any other people in the show besides the one scene. But it was really cool to see like other people in the show starting to like have really distinct different characters.
Yeah. Yeah, you watch like the range of characters, and you can see why everyone was called back for each person. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And like, and even some like, I think some of the young ladies that were called back for Chloe were also called back for Dakota. But as you filtered through, you really saw each of these characters are very unique to themselves. I feel, you know. And I don't want to give anything away, but they're all they're very distinct.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned where we are right now. So we're actually in the dressing room of the Actors Temple Theater where we have the show. Kind of a cool setting to do this, I think, and and probably you're probably wondering up to this point. But anyway, this is where the women get ready and change, and then the men's is over on the other side, or female identifying, male identifying. And so just a little break there. So I want to ask about the monologue itself. So something I noticed. Okay, so again, you know, I've only had LA audition, New York audition, then New York callback. So I've done this 3 times now. But something I realize is that for me, the choice of monologue is actually important. Do you guys think about that?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
And how do you approach that? And do you really look at, because there's not much sometimes written about the play itself or the character itself. And
That's true. There were a lot of surprises in this one, I'll tell you that.
There you go. You gotta come to see it.
I know.
Early construction worker.
All right. That's what I saw. That's what I saw too.
I was like, yeah, what else can it be, you know?
Yeah, that's it, you know?
You know, surprise, but...
And then,
but in all seriousness, monologue choice does matter. And,
Yes,
you know, the best advice for that I could say is, like, read plays. Get your, you know, because if you go to acting school, you go to school for this, they'll say you need, you know, your repertoire. Same thing if you're auditioning for musicals, you have your book of songs. You want to have your repertoire of monologues. So if they ask for classical, contemporary, Shakespearean, Greek, you know. And for this play, you know, there was the construction workers. There wasn't much, you know, like I said, you kind of had the gist. So it was fun for myself. How I approached it was like, all right, it's 20 seconds. What short ones do I have? Yeah. And the one that I went with was actually Joe Carden's monologue from Lillian Hellman's The Children's Hour, which, if you know that play, the character that says that monologue could not be more different than Phil.
Really?
But I saw that I can twist it. In the sense where, you know, he's a doctor. He's a 1930s doctor, and, you know, that opening line, he's talking to a kid who just got in trouble. He's like, you know, it's very like, listen, everybody lies all the time. Sometimes
I remember that now.
you
Yeah.
And it was very, but I saw an opportunity to be, you know, Phil from New York, be like, look, everybody lies all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to, sometimes you don't.
So good.
And so, you know, you want to stay true to the text. Like, I wasn't going to change any words, but in that 20 seconds, I was like, I can fudge this a little and make it flexible to where it suits my needs.
Actually, I think that's really smart too, because if someone does know the play and then they're seeing you do such a unique take on it, then it's strong, you know, about it.
And for me, it was like having that repertoire of like monologues. Like for the monologue I did was Winston's monologue from the show New Girl. And the reason I came up with that monologue was because I was just reading like the synopsis you put for the show. And it was like comedic, kind of like drama, kind of like, so I was like, okay, how can, if there's comedy and drama, all right, let's try to do the comedic side. Maybe this character might be a little bit more funny, you know, because I didn't read the script before, you know, but it was just, you know, making a gut check decision. And then I kind of just took a lot of the filler, because it was actually a pretty long monologue. I just kind of took the bits that really didn't need to be there, kept all the funny bits in, and then tried to really make it my own. But yeah, monologue choices is very important, because if you choose the wrong one, it can definitely leave the wrong impression. Because then a casting person could be like, okay, you chose that, but it seemed like you didn't do the work. Or you picked a monologue that's not in your essence. That's not a character that you could potentially play. It's like, what are you showing me? So your choice of package and what you do is, that's like half the battle.
Wow, interesting. It's funny because I feel, I mean, honestly, like I'm a theater outsider. You know, I don't know any of this stuff. I mean, I've done, you know, 10 plays now, that includes Soulmate, so acted in 9 of them. But I was like forced to, like I was pulled into it. And
Against
so,
your will.
yeah, exactly. It really was. It was like tricked into it where, like, you know, I didn't, except for one of them. And that's the one that was the most interesting, where that's where I met Sunny. So Sunny and I were in a play called Corporate Dilemmas. And it was a thing where my friend Lily, who was here yesterday, so Lily was the one who was in the back, and then she was asking a couple questions at the talkback. She had sent me on an audition because she's like, "What are you doing right now?" And it's a block away from where you live. It's like, just go. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I walk in. They wanted me to kind of improvise something. I did. Then they called me back, and then it was just a weird night. It was all during one night though, so I was there for like hours during the night. And I met Sunny there, and yeah, they cast us, and her and I ended up being these leads in a completely improvised play.
Wow.
Nice.
And so and it had a skeleton, it had a structure. It was from Personas Entertainment. This guy Peace wrote it, and this guy Shai ended up directing it. And yeah, it was crazy because her and I talk about it all the time. We had basically I want to say 6 months of rehearsal. Like it was a 6 month, and it just kept going, just like because they were trying to book the show while they were doing the rehearsal.
Okay.
And every rehearsal was basically like an improv class because they were just trying to get improv out of us. And so we just learned a ton. And this guy Shai, and she had mentioned him last night too. He's just so amazing. She said if we do another play, we should get him on board. But the thing about it is that, yeah, like that's the only time I actually auditioned for something, right? And then. But even that was so unusual, you know. So I don't think I got that experience yet. So it's interesting being on this side of it. In any case, speaking of improv, something that's really strong about what these guys are doing is the fact that because we had to expand on these scenes, we already had kind of the premise that I gave you guys a lot of leeway right off the bat to improvise because I just want everything to feel as real as possible in the play. I mean, it's just a simple thing, and I feel like, and I also try not to. You guys can tell me how I do. Try not to like direct too much about how I would like to see the character portrayed, because honestly, I know the character's intentions, I know their situation, but I don't know who they are inside of you. You know. So what I want to pick people who feel the character, you know, find something inside of themselves that relates to that character, pull that out, and just embody. And I mean, to be honest, it's like I want to see like who comes out, and it makes it very fresh for me. Meaning that like every time we have a casting change, every time we open the play in a different city, like here in New York, it's like it's so exciting to me because it's like this is gonna be a different play. Like it's a completely. And I mean, maybe some plays are like that, maybe some plays aren't, you know. But for me, it's such an exciting part of that process. So what I'm getting at is that right off the bat, I wanted these guys to improvise, you know, and that helped tremendously because as we expanded into these in-between scenes, you guys had like full reign. Now, that said, I'm trying to even think of it. Did it happen kind of slowly? Did it happen organically? And what do you think when you're like saying, hey, like if I mean, I'm trying to remember. This is such a quick rehearsal, but yeah, just jump on stage and just make stuff up. like what was that? What was that like?
I remember like us like messing around off stage during rehearsals, just like dancing. And you were like, hey, put that in the show.
We would just be in our own corner cackling. Just laughing about something. And it was always nonsense. It was always just, because, you know, the way the rehearsal process was, we had a lot of time on our hands. You know, we were in the two scenes, and you were upstairs working on something, and we'd have allotted for a 6-hour rehearsal, and me and Leo maybe used for like an hour and a half, if that. So we're like, all right, what do you want to do now? And it'd be us in the corner, either making a stool, like putting a stool together. Fun fact, we built the set.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, they did. Construction workers, right? You went through.
We
method.
did.
You guys went method.
Yeah, we did the homework. You know, we went with Zombie down the street.
Oh, we did the homework. And that alone was like, I feel like us chopping up there, walking with Zombie, we just had a lot of time to just, you know, create this chemistry, and we would. You know, you said, you're like, hey, you know, you guys are joking around, you guys having fun. You know, when you're changing the set, just kind of say whatever you want. I'm like, whatever I want. Whatever I want. I was like, where are we going? Because, you know, so, you know, we just, I think some of it was, it started off like, hey, where are we getting coffee? La, la, la.
Yeah.
Then after a while, I started saying some out-of-pocket things, and you're like, that's funny, keep it in. I'm like, all right. There, and it stays.
Things that really work, and I mean, you guys could tell too. I mean, the audience is now New York's not the loudest audience when it comes to laughs and things like that, but I mean, but you could feel it, you know, and you could,
They're definitely. Please.
No, I was gonna say it's weird that like the first couple audiences, you know, improvisation's a lot like stand-up.
Yeah.
You show up, you try out material, you see what lands, you see what doesn't, and what's interesting about these audiences is a lot of the times what lands with what audience will not even close.
So weird, right?
So like I don't want to really give anything away, but I got a joke that involves a cashew and a python.
Right.
Figure it out from there. The first couple times I did that, people were laughing. Then one night I said it, crickets. And I'm like, well, now I just look like some guy who's interested in cashews and pythons.
With an unhealthy obsession.
Everyone's going home everyone's like going home, great show, but what was that all about?
Like, do we need does that guy need some therapy?
Yeah, hug or something? Yeah.
Right. It's not that bad.
But you know, but then some of them, like you won't think, hey, I'm just throwing this away.
Yeah.
And they'll catch it and they'll run with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right.
Yeah.
You know, it's you just test the water a bit.
Yeah.
Then even like sometimes in scenes, like specifically in like the construction scene, like some things will hit one night where it's like they're cackling out the door.
Yeah.
And then other times they're silent, but you can tell that they're really engaged.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I really picked up from the New York audience, is that sometimes when they're really quiet, but they're very engaged.
Yeah.
Like
I've noticed that too. It's really nice.
And it's like they are a smart theater audience, and they really like hold the space for you, and it's like it's truly amazing to feel that.
Yeah. It's nice they don't talk during the show.
Yeah. It's nice that a phone doesn't go off either. You know.
Yeah. Well, which does happen once in a while. You know,
every now and then, but you know, it's I've done shows a lot where it's like, you know, people are like, what's going on? Oh, he's so and so's sister. Oh, and
really? Saying out loud?
Yeah.
And I'm like, aren't you? Like I was. I'm not gonna say the theater company's name or his location, but like I remember I was doing a show where by the time the run ended, we did like 60 plus shows.
Wow.
And by the time the run ended, I was at my wit's end because the audience was just so, and like it was a double-edged sword because the audience was so appreciative of the show.
Okay.
It was one of those types of communities. It was a real theater community. They loved the show, but God, they were horrible to be on stage in front of it because you know you got phones and talking and this. What do you say? You know. So it's just one of those things, but. You know,
but I was gonna say that on that though, I actually feel like how engaged the audience is, how honed in, how focused. I mean, I feel that here, and in a weird way, I feel like, is this like the last place where this could happen? Because we're also distracted by our phones. And you know what I mean? And I feel like we're also losing that tact about how to behave in public spaces where, you know, like on the subway, you know, you literally hear a guy, or even on an airplane, like listening to his phone with the volume all the way up, and it's just like,
me
like,
on the train today. I'm like,
Yo,
no,
you crazy.
what are you doing?
exactly.
It's like I like to, you know, this is the comedian Sebastian Maniscalco.
Yeah.
I quote him all the time. I'm like, aren't you embarrassed?
Yeah,
Aren't you embarrassed? You walking down the street, be like watching whatever, you know. Bro's watching porn, and I'm like, we're on the LA.
Well, I mean, at least if you're watching porn, then it's, you know, you can look over their shoulder and get some entertainment out of it. I'm just saying, if you're gonna watch something, watch something.
But you don't know what he's into. You don't know what you're into.
Yeah, that's true. I'm kind of into anything, you know.
Oh, okay.
Hey, not trying to yak anybody's
I
gum.
don't want to give anything away in the show again.
Yeah, you know. But no, but I really think that like the theater may be, like, I mean, the theater, but also I guess just this one, not this one in particular, but this, I don't know if it's Off-Broadway, if it just has to do with, well, what is it? Like, what makes it different about an audience that's engaged here? Is it because we're Off-Broadway or in the Temple, or, you know, as opposed to the other audiences that you guys have where they're more rowdy or whatever?
I think it's just that they're, New York as a whole kind of has, theater is a part of it. Like, you know, this is the hub. So I think when you're raised here, you kind of are raised with that kind of theater etiquette a bit.
Got it.
That maybe some other places may not get, even though they may not think that they're doing something wrong. It's just that they just don't know. Because I was working at a dinner theater.
Give them a lot of credit.
You know, because going to the theater now, you know, it's not a cheap thing to do. You know, You know, so going out, seeing live entertainment, you know, so very appreciative. But I was working at a dinner theater one time, and the audience just like what Sean was saying with the audience, they loved the show, but like they could not turn off their phone for the life of them. And it was just like it'd be like the most serious scene in the show, where like you'd hear a pin drop, and then next thing you know you'd hear a ring go off, and then like they're taking 5 minutes just to turn it off, and it can get a little hard.
I've been there with dinner theater, and the best part about dinner theater is right before Act 2 or something, they'll get their checks. And the lights go out and the show starts, but they're still looking at the checks, so the phone comes out and the flashlight goes on. I've seen that, but I think the thing about New York theater is New York theater is held on a pedestal, right? It really is. Like, if you do a show in New York, it is perceived, at the very least, that you are successful, and like this is something that is, it has to be good. It's running in New York, and I think the people that come to New York theater, aside from like the big musicals, maybe get some tourists, and I'll say like, after seeing some musicals, you get the tourists, you get people who don't know how to act. But specifically with a play, a play that we're doing shows on Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights. If you're doing a play, plays are not mainstream right now. Doing a play on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, people who show up to those shows are people who want to be there.
Right.
These are people, they live to see theater. Your average person who's a fan of Grease isn't going to be like, well, I worked all day, let me go see this show on a Tuesday night.
Okay, so they're already...
They might do it on on the weekend, they come to visit, whatever. But like, you're a theater fan when you come to see a show on like whatever day after you worked all day. You're like, no, but I want to go see this show because it's my thing. I love seeing theater. It's like that one woman we met. We were supposed to do a show, we ended up not. She came all the way from wherever. I think Staten Island.
Staten Island, right?
She's like, I want to come see the show. That's obviously her thing. Like she loves to see theater, and she likes to see new works. And when you frequent a theater like this, it's like a revolving door of new productions. You're always seeing something new. Whether it's
interesting. It's such a good perspective. It's so great because this whole thing is so new to me. And LA theater is very different. And we had a talk back yesterday where someone asked about kind of the differences between LA and New York theater, in both how we prepared the production, but also in the way that the audiences react. And honestly, I mean, here's the thing about LA theater. Actually, I don't know if you guys have had any experience seeing any theater in LA or been to LA, but there's so many good actors, of course, because everyone's working on their craft, but no one really goes to the theater. And so what I've done is I live in a theater district. I live in this place called the NoHo Arts District, and there's tons of theaters there. And when I actually moved there 10 years ago, I look and I'm like, okay, I'll go see a play because I do enjoy it. And then I go and I'd see something and it would be like astoundingly well done, well acted, but like no one's in the audience, or but it's like, but they didn't care because honestly they were waiting for their next movie or TV or whatever, and it's like they were just trying to hone their craft. They were just trying to so it's not as much a theater culture there. It's like oh, we have theater, but theater is a tool to get our to hone our craft.
It's funny you say that. I just sent you this video actually. I was just watching a video with Michael Caine talking like why an actor will do a small production or maybe a not great production or something in between their big projects. And he's basically, the gist of the video was, you have these two people. One person keeps turning down plays or movies or whatever because they're like, I'm waiting for my next big thing. I want to be in the next big great movie. Well, you have another actor who's, I'll take this, I'll take that, I'll do this. Actor A, who's turning everything down, hasn't worked in 2 years, finally lands a role, is nervous because they haven't worked in 2 years. Actor B is like, well, I've been working for the last 2 years. I've been honing my craft. I've been doing this. I might have been making a crap movie, or I might have not been in a great play, but there were stuff that I'm working on, and that's there. It's like the gym. You're getting reps in. You're building a muscle, and actor B is far more prepared, whether the quality of the projects they were in are good or not. They're far more prepared than actor A. So.
But I would add to that though. I mean, how do you know what the next big thing is, right? And that's the thing, is that like the smallest thing could turn into like an indie hit, and the biggest budget movie could be like the worst movie of the year.
You got to show up.
Exactly.
You won't know if you don't show up.
Absolutely. And just piggyback off that, like when I got the Actors Access notification for Soulmate, I just flew down to Florida, and then the audition was a few days after. So it was like I had to make a decision. Where you're either gonna stay down here or you're gonna go find out. And I'm glad I found out because now I'm here.
Right.
But just goes to show, like some some people just want to wait around, and some people want to work.
Exactly. So do you think Soulmate could be we could adapt it for children?
Maybe like a high school version or something.
Yeah.
Well, it could be like, they could be like.
If you cut out like 98% of the script.
yeah, we can get there.
And you tell me not to ad lib.
All right.
We can probably do that.
We could do it. All right. It could be like a 2 minute.
Yeah.
Hit it hard.
You could do 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
you're a 2 minute wonder, man.
Oh my God! It is about efficiency, bro. I swear.
Yeah.
Hey, gotta get in where you fit in. You know what I mean?
So,
Ain't that the truth?
But speaking of that, like there is a question. So the thing is that like I feel like we put up Soulmate, like you guys know. I mean, I wrote it in I had the idea, I wrote it in a month, did the music in 3 weeks, and then we were up, and then we brought it here and just like went at it as fast as hard as we could, and that's not it. Okay.
No, I should have. You really threw that up on me.
And but at this point, it's like a really good inflection point. It's like, what do we do next with this?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ideas. What people do like about the show is like the construction workers, and like you guys said, is that it is real people. I mean, there is some fantastical elements, of course, and there's some mystical elements, and yeah, some people are not quite real, but but the ones that are like the construction workers, it's like they're relatable, and people want to see more of them, and so there's been a lot of talk about whether it become something that's more of like a serial, like a series, like a film series, not filmed series, meaning like whether that's more for TV or even for like something that's like I don't know, like a vertical series, like the shorts or something like that.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge, specifically in New York, LA, and Atlanta.
Really?
Those are everywhere.
Okay.
I
mean, you've been doing a lot of work on vertical.
I've been doing a good amount. I've been doing a lot. Yeah, I mean, lately it's been a little dry, but like January through April, I was on one of those at least once a week.
Interesting. Okay.
And like some of them, some of them are not. I mean, like. It's like
anything,
any film set. Some of them are great, some not.
Yeah.
But I've had mostly fantastic vibes on it. It's nice work if you can get it. It's paying work as an actor, and like if you want to make your living as an actor, it's nice. It's nice to be in that circle.
Are those usually shorter or like?
Yeah, those are like. I mean, they do like 60 to 85 episodes, but they're all 2-minute episodes.
Got
you
it.
film them.
Okay,
they're catered for you to watch like you're watching TikTok.
Yeah, exactly.
I know people who are making careers out of it, and they're doing incredibly well. I usually do like the day player stuff. I'm like Johnny Sins, bro. I play bodyguards.
Yeah.
Man. You're like the Thanos. You played all the Phoenix Stones, man.
You know what I mean? Guests at a party. Everything. But I think they're good vibes. I think they're a lot of fun. And if you were to do something like this, I think it would go because a lot of it's. The only thing about this being a vertical is that a lot of the verticals are like soap opera over the top, and that's what they're targeted as.
Okay.
Whereas I feel like this piece is very real. You were just talking about people are interested in the construction workers, in the relationships. I think the most interesting part about this play, and you can stop me if I'm going in a direction that you don't want me to go in, but I think the most interesting part of this play is the relationships among people. When I talked about the construction workers and their dynamics and how they're at different stages of relationships.
Yeah.
And Caleb and Cyrene, their dynamic is very interesting as people. You know what I mean? I don't want to.
Yeah.
And then the dates, because I feel like when I watch the date scenes, I feel like I've dated these women.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we've been there, and like you see these things, you're like, oh, I know this person.
Yeah.
And that's the most interesting part is the relationships between each of these individuals, and to do something like if you were to do it like a limited series or do this play again, I think really what people want to see is like not the drama, but like what happens next with these relationships. You know? Like what does Steve's relationship with Layla really look like?
Yeah. Like go deeper into it.
Yeah.
Or
what
like
would happen if Willow
we
had
get
a second date?
Yeah. Because we have like these. It's almost like a bunch of teaser vignettes.
Yeah.
And that's actually what someone said. Actually, the Uzma, who's the woman who runs the theater in London.
Oh.
So she gave me a big like write up, which is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
But what she felt, which was really interesting, and it felt like she was like trying to say like there's something different here. It's not a narrative per se. It's a series of vignettes that tie together. I didn't know that, but I mean that's from her perspective.
And even like a play Almost Maine is similar to that, where it has like scenes where you have like different like vignettes, but then there's one thing that's really connecting them together throughout the whole show. And like this, like I completely agree with her. Like this show kind of feels that way, where you have this overarching line that connects the vignettes together, which I think creates an interesting view from the audience perspective watching the show, because you're watching a different kind of show.
And then it becomes like, whose story is it?
Yeah.
You know, I know we follow Caleb and Cyrene, but like, is it Chloe's story?
Right.
At a certain point in the show, it very much shifts to her point of view.
Right.
I would argue almost more so than the other two.
Right.
Or the other three. Because they have other scenes, but they're almost like Once Upon a Time-esque in the sense where like, and like Tiara's talking to Chris Hemsworth. You know, that's very like funny. And then Willow walks in with wool.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And
talking about something.
And like it's very like whoa, and then you're kind of and then Dakota does her thing. Yeah. And then you get to Chloe, and you're like, oh wait, this is a conversation.
Yeah.
And you're expecting something else that's like over the top of but it's just hey sis. You know, it's like, oh, we're back to the relationship. So it caters to many stories and like many like who is the point of view that we're talking from, you know.
Yeah, so another idea has come about, which is really interesting. It'll take a lot of work, but I'm up for it. We'll see. Where someone said they would love to see, and actually Uzma picked up on this too. It seems to be like a desire to see like different stories from the different characters' points of views. You know what I mean? But meaning like then tour those, like meaning, oh, you want to see Chloe's story? Go to Chicago. You want to see, like Caleb's story? Go to Portland, or that kind of thing. Which is, I feel like that's like way down the line if it, we really keep developing into something that's live. But I mean, all I'm saying is that I'm happy that we started at Zombie Joe's Underground, which is, just a super experimental theater. It's where you just break all the rules. You just do whatever. That's where I was just able to just write whatever script I wanted, which was very vignette-y because Zombie Joe's Urban Death is very vignette-y, and that's kind of like that's the first thing I ever acted in, right? Yeah. In any case, it feels like this kind of full circle thing. And I think that what I've heard from New York is that we're not as appreciated here as a play. Meaning like because it isn't a traditional play, but we're appreciated for these deeper things that we're talking about. Like meaning like when everyone comes up after the show, they want to talk about their favorite characters. They want to talk about, it's always the construction workers, it's always like Willow, it's always like, and then like the pain, like yesterday, and I don't know how many times a guy has come up to me, and yesterday this guy came up to me and he's like, I know the pain you were feeling, during your last breakup. And he's like, I felt it through Caleb, and he's like, and I'm feeling that right now, and he's like, and it was hard and it was wonderful, to share that in this space. And it's like, but I can even tell as he's talking about it, like just as I am now,
it's hard.
Your chest is tightening up. It's like the anxiety is starting to, it's like, this is, but that's what I think I wanted. It's like I wanted these pieces of my life, these pieces of Shannon's lives, to be out in display so that, we can see how people relate to them. And, whether it takes the form of a traditional play or not is not as important at that point. Right. And so I don't know where I'm going with this, but
what you're describing is art in its purest form. Here you are to the audience. You're a stranger coming here from LA. Bringing this play. They don't know anything about it. They don't know you. They don't know your life. They don't know any of the actors on stage. They don't know their lives. But they see the story, and they're like, oh, that stranger is me. That stranger and I have this in common. This person is doing something that I experienced when I was a little kid. Or not in this play, but like
right.
I just mean like in general.
Little guest star appearance.
Next podcast guest is getting here.
But that's really art at its purest. And like, how did art start? People wanted to tell stories.
Right.
Back in the day, and it's like, that's what we're doing here.
And Doug, how do you feel about like bringing your art to here, and then eventually maybe bringing it to like other places, having people see it? You know? Because
it's interesting because what I really feel is that like I really did feel like my life just kind of not ended, but it hit at such a point of inflection that I'm like, I'm just gonna go for something totally different, you know. And so I mean, to me, it literally felt like just losing my mind, like meaning like, you know, I'll spend all my money, you know, like you know, doing something crazy. And just see what it's like, and it's actually been really hard, but it's been so rewarding.
Yeah.
And the thing is that like, but the lessons, my God, like, you know,
you're getting like a crash course in theater and how to be a producer, how to be a director, how to like
not only that, I'd say, but like also like a CEO, like you know, like you know, now I have like being and being an HR manager and being a, you know, and the lessons are hard, and I'm not great at everything. That's okay, you know. But I mean, what I really loved, and I said this during the play, during the talk back yesterday, is the naive perspective of not being so professional. So I think that Shannon and I both bring this almost like innocent purity to the whole thing, which is not such a pure play, but I mean, but, you know, but an innocent purity to it, where it's like we just want to like connect to amazing people. That you know, and make something amazing together, you know, see what happens. And so it's like, you know, even though there's like this business side to it, and this, you know, and everyone has their own lives and their own whatever, it's like what we wanted and what we wanted to cultivate, and what I think we're so satisfied with now, and also like very having a hard time facing that maybe, you know, like we don't know what the next evolution is, you know, is that, you know, that we created these relationships with you guys, you know, like with the actors, with Milton, you know, that and that's so fulfilling, right? So I mean, in a weird way, it's like, yeah, maybe I come out of it knowing more about theater, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think for Shannon and I both, it's going to be like we made like some amazing relationships and friends, and spent some quality time together doing something that like no one gets to do, or very few people get to do in this way, you know. Yeah.
And you got even like, from like my perspective, like being able to like take that big of a risk, like that, like kudos to you, because not many people would be able to.
A lot of people would just be like, well, when you get LA was cool, and then that was that, you know what I mean? Like, or not even do it, you know what I mean?
True, because you know, even me, like I have a lot of ideas about like writing a play. I haven't wrote one yet. You know what I mean?
About
it's
improv,
like, you know. But like, you sat down, you had an idea, you put pen to paper, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna put this in front of people.
Well, I had to sell tickets first. Well, I put pen. No, but that's what I did. That's the way.
That's
you
like
know?
the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
That's big risk.
Yeah. No, tickets. When tickets started selling, I'm like, hey, now I gotta write this thing.
Yeah. Like, what's it about? You're like, you know.
Yeah.
It's about something.
I had the
what do you think you're gonna see?
Yeah. I had the first scene and the last scene in my head, and I wrote those, and I'm like, and why? This is a 5-minute play. This is gonna. I'm like, what do I do now? That was actually the biggest thing, and I'm like, oh no. So then I'm like, I guess, like, oh well, there has to be dates. I'm like, okay, it could be kind of a serial dating thing, and I like the rule of threes. Let's have it be 3, and then it's like, and how to, you know, so things, and then what I just did was I just closed my eyes and I saw a movie unfold, and I just documented the movie. You know,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's brave.
But anyway, so yeah, we can start wrapping this up. I do want to say one more thing though, because I don't know, I starting to think there's this improvised element, like we said, in between scenes, but I'm realizing that something that Sean's really, I know you're doing it on purpose or not, but a little bit of like a cold open, meaning that the first time you guys are out doing your thing, you're seeing, you haven't been introduced yet. And you start with something like, and it's cold, you know, like no one knows anything. And I feel like twice now, you started with something that hit me so hard. One of them we talked about already, where you said that, like you were, you know, Phil told Steve that he was invited to a wedding of an ex and what to do there. And then like, and I mean, that has happened to me. Actually, it happened to me like twice in 1 year, where I was not only invited, but I was asked to be in the wedding party, and then later found out that the ex, I mean, the husband didn't know that I was an ex.
Common interest.
You know? And yeah, exactly. But then something was happening the other day where I met this girl, and she was giving me a lot of, you know, and then you come on stage and you're like, yeah, like I think I'm gonna like meet this girl, but she's gonna ruin my life.
Yeah,
I'm like, this girl's ruined my life. What's going on? Yeah. So I don't know. I'm starting to think now that actually Phil's like a oracle.
He speaks for everybody.
Exactly. You're like a tarot deck. You're just, you know, you're just going out there and you're
dealing them out. Hey, you're dealing yourself in.
I'm dealing
you're dealing yourself in. Exactly.
It's really funny if you were with us.
Absolutely. It's a little,
it's a zombieism.
It's just life. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even trying to be funny right now. Like you go about life, you experience things, you see you have a relationship or two, you know, you come up with these things, and it's just how you write what you know. I try to just improvise what I know. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna try to make up some story. I'm like, well, what's funny about something I've experienced? You know, and I just carry it there because that ties into what we were talking about earlier. Like the most interesting thing about the play is the relationships that people may have also experienced. You know, so
cool.
That just me being silly.
Keep it up, keep it going though. But that's good, man, because that's the thing is that when someone feels hit, like, oh shit, like that's me, that's or whatever, that then they're engaged. And, you know. Last thing I want to say though, Sean, have you done? I've asked you this. Have you done stand up yet? Or
I've not done stand up, but a lot of people ask me. About
really? All right.
I think about it all the time.
I don't know. I think I gotta like force you out one day or something. You know,
I've thought about it. Here's my problem: is like I don't really. When I was in high school, everyone told me I wasn't funny.
Really?
Like it would get to the point where people would come up to me and be like, Sean Amato, you tell such funny jokes, like.
Really?
And people would be like, my closest friends would be like, you're not.
That's
you're
shocking.
Not that funny.
Sorry.
I don't know that I was. It wasn't until I think I told the story in a talkback last night. I did a play. I did Aristophanes' Lysistrata, which was, and we did Christopher Hampton's adaptation. Which do you know the play Lysistrata?
I don't.
So basically, it's the Peloponnesian War in ancient Greece, and it's Athens versus Sparta, and the women of Athens and Sparta are like, "Hey, please stop the war. All of our husbands and sons and brothers are dying."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Shut up."
Yeah.
And so the women are like, "All right, we're gonna stop having sex with you till you stop the war."
Yeah.
And all the guys are like, "Whoa,
settle down.
So that's and like I start Act 2 with a microphone going up, be like, "Hey, what's your name?" Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And so, like that was my first like attempt at what stand up could be because that was all just crowd work.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's
so,
the hardest part of stand up too.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, like the first couple of rehearsals, I bombed so bad. Like if people were like, "Why is this guy got the role?" You know, like it was so rough. Finally, like once we got into the shows, I got into a group, but you know, it's exactly what I described in the improvisations. It's you know, you see what lands, you see what doesn't land, you try it out, you know. But that was my first attempt at it. I would try it. My you know, I've thought of material, I've thought about it. The problem is I don't know if my family's ready for me to be a
oh man.
A lot of it will be family based and relationship based.
Yeah. Actually, the very first time I did stand up was 2004. And I didn't realize, I realized after I wrote my set, I'm like, oh, I understand, like, this is the thing that worked. Every joke and everything got such a laugh, I thought I'd never do it again. But it was either a joke about family or a dick joke.
Yeah, well,
and if you combine the two, I mean,
you got it. Home run.
You're golden. Yeah. And the funniest thing about that is that then I saw Tracy Morgan like perform a couple months later. Every joke, a family joke and a dick joke. I'm like, some people are they know this.
People can relate to that. I have a family, I have a dick.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I've dealt with the dick.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
People can relate to it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's gonna be a mission is like try to get you to come out and because we could do it sometime, you know.
We can give it a try.
Yeah.
I'll workshop something.
But anyway, I think we should wrap this up. You know, but thanks so much, guys. And we're about to do our fourth to last New York show here in New York, and I have to say, sadly, it's Leo's last show with us here, but that's why we want to make sure to send him off with this podcast and with some drinks tonight. So
absolutely,
excellent.
Yeah, it's been truly a pleasure, and can't wait to do it one more time. So.
Yeah, and we're gonna I don't know, we'll do something more in the future.
Of course.
We're gonna
we're gonna link up.
Yeah, exactly.
Stephen Phil solo show.
I mean, we can do a little vertical.
Yeah, Keep in touch. I mean, what do you keep tuned? What the fuck am I? Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
That's it. Do you know I got fucked up because I'm like, this isn't vertical. This is horizontal. So bad context. Like, all right, thanks guys. Bye.